Hello everyone, friend and foe alike. Uh, I've been needing to make this video for some time now. This will be going up later. I'm probably gonna start a new Let's Play soon, or whatever, and this will be posted after. But, there's just this thing in the community, just something about it. The community still doesn't get it. Like, I feel like I'm just a crazy person sometimes, the way I talk about this game in a certain way, and then when I go to the forums or I go to YouTube comments or maybe some other streamer who probably mostly plays Survivor, or if they play Killer and they have chill Killer games, there's a complete disconnect in like the games that we're playing. It just seems like I'm getting messages from everywhere that's like, Killer can do no right. At least if you're one of those killers like me who realizes that the game is Survivor-sided still, even after these buffs. Because Killer has sucked for years, and that's why they've been getting so many buffs. People say crap like, Killers have only been listened to for years, never the Survivor, because they take away entity blocker, or they introduce entity blocker, they take away infinites, they took away insta-heals. Oh, you mean all that OP stuff that was needed to be removed for the sake of the game's health? No, that was just a Survivor nerf because the devs hate survivors and cater to the baby killers all the time. But let's just break it down by like subject here. The gen speed. It's still too fast. And people try to gaslight me on that. But you know, they nerfed pretty much every good gen regression perk that we had. Ruin, dead perk, pop, dead perk. You'll still see people running those perks because they're stupid for trying to make those perks work. But people seem to think that it's okay if those got nerfed, since, you know, Eruption, Call of Brine, Overcharge are such an OP combo and survivors can't do anything against it. And if you're having to use gen defense as Killer and still lose, then that's a skill issue. You should be winning those games. Sure. The fact is that adding 10 seconds to the freaking gens isn't enough. They still go too fast. Even without stacking Prove Thyself, toolboxes, resilience, all that, they still go too freaking fast. I don't know what we need to do to fix that. Make them even longer, or make killers down quicker, or something like that. Just do something to freaking drag the game out a little bit more. But some people won't even consider that, because they're outraged at what just happened, which is, oh, gens take 10 seconds longer, which is a whole 50 seconds extra to the match minimum. And I'm trying to argue this to these people on the forums that's like, oh, the match lasting a minute longer, that was just too far, huh? And they're like, yeah, because if you do this math here and here, and Call of Brine Overcharge, 400% regression, even though it's 300, I'm pretty sure someone said. It doesn't even stack to 400. Then the gens just take forever. There's this false narrative that gens take forever. Like your forever Legion builds, your forever Plague builds, because they just slap on Thanatophobia and win the game just off that, because the gens are taking so long. And it's like, really? 4 stacks of Thanatophobia isn't even as much as 1 Pentimento being up. And then they're like, oh, well, you combine it with Pentimento and then the gens go too slow. Yeah, but you can break the Hex Totem, can't you? That's the whole point. Hexes being strong, and then they can be destroyed by survivors. Just take away a whole freaking killer perk right there. Oh, well, it's still too much slowdown. This is kind of reminding me why I got off the forums, and I'm falling into the trap of getting back on them and seeing some of the things that these freaking lunatics are saying. But Gen speed, it's oftentimes related to the maps. These maps are too freaking big, the gens are too spread out to defend. Like, you can't even attempt to defend them. I know I did a day of 3-genning, and maybe it didn't work out as I planned, because some of those matches we didn't even get down to 1-gen. And then it seemed like the 3-gens we did get were undefendable, because people would just hold forward to the other side of the map every single time I hit them. And that's what they can do. So this idea that, oh, 3-genning is just an unbeatable strategy, killer can just get a 3-gen and win, and create dead zones and win. It's freaking complete false narrative, man. The maps, I mean, you still have God palettes, which have no freaking mind game, even with Bloodlust 3, Bloodlust OP, by the way, that you can't even catch people at certain loops, even with Bloodlust 3. Mother's Dwelling, freaking Eyrie of Crows, RPD in certain times, Badham, Haddonfield. The gens are too freaking spread out. They just are, and you can't lie to me and say that they're not. I mean, there's the screwed up scenario where you get the gen inside Haddonfield's main house, and then the one outside, and then there's another one nearby somehow. But that is completely on the survivors, that they made the 3-gen happen. And maybe, you know, I give the killer not as much slack as they deserve on that, like, oh, as survivor, when I get 3-gen by a killer, it's like, this freaking killer didn't even work for that 3-gen. But at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, they didn't, because we gifted it to them by not watching the gens we were doing. Because I used to have the mindset of, we always need to be watching out for that 3-gen. If we get 3-gen, we could lose this whole game. But then a lot of the times we'd get to there, and it's like, even if we are 3-gen, we're just blasting through them. Which you totally can do as Survivor, because the killer can't be everywhere at once, despite what people think. But yeah, the maps are too big. There's freaking God loops, God windows. Haddonfield and the new map, Garden of Joy, have building loops that are absolutely ridiculous with what you can do with the windows. I play almost exclusively 115% killers at this point, and it's like, if I can't freaking catch them here, if I can't catch them with Blight and crap at these certain loops, and Demogorgon with his long shred attack, how the heck are 110% killers ever going to catch people here? How are they going to win survivors on these maps? So yeah, maps are still a problem. We need to address them, and we need to stop pretending that, oh, there's killer-sided maps in the game. There's freaking not. Do you just run to dead zones every time, and that's why you say it's a killer-sided map? Because that's almost what it seems like. There is enough palettes, windows, and other things on any given map in this game that you should not be able to say, it's a killer-sided map, there's nothing there to use. Yeah, there is. Maybe you're just throwing pallets down too early, although you can totally do that. Just throw pallets down instantly, the killer follows you, you hold forward, and you win the game right off the bat, just doing that strategy, because the gens go too fast if the killer's following you for all that time. But I get it. Sometimes you're in solo queue or whatnot, and they just can't freaking cut it. The gens go too slow, even with you throwing down every pallet, and the killer wasting time to break every pallet, and you lose that way. But is that up to the game balance, or is that up to your teammates being bad and inefficient and not knowing how to do their objective because they're breaking totems and searching chests like Gemini, like Hybrid, when they don't even have perks associated with those actions? movement speed for killers. This also has to do with pressuring gens and maps. You're just not moving quick enough to catch up to these survivors, and the extra pallet breaking speed is nice that we got recently, but it has nothing to do with movement speed. You still take far too long, even with like a cloaked wraith. It just takes forever, it seems sometimes, to catch up to people. And that's not stuff I'm making up. It's literally like, oh, they got the unhook at the freaking other side of the map. I can definitely down them before they get to the open exit gate, right? Nope. Because with one body block or not even, and you just try to push past them and it's not happening, they run out the exit. It's astonishing how many times that freaking happens when I'm so sure that, oh, I can definitely catch the survivor before they make it out. It doesn't happen that way. The movement speed and chase specifically, like, you're going around a long wall jungle gym, or even a basic, like, rock loop with a pallet in the middle, and it's like, you can't catch these freaking guys. They're able to cut the loops so much tighter than you are as killer because they have the smaller character model. And if they quick slide over a pallet or whatever and you make the wrong read, oh well, the chase just freaking resets basically. Unless you want to bloodlust to them to get them at every single loot, at which point you've lost the game. I just don't accept the mantra that every strong pallet in this game has been removed because the crying killers wanted them removed. They were removed because they had no freaking mind game, and there were too many of them linking into each other to where the killer was having to get to Bloodlust 3 just to freaking catch people unless they wanted to play Pallet Breaking Simulator. Thinking back to old Ormond and stuff like that. But even the weakest, quote-unquote, of loops, like the rock loops and stuff like that, survivors can still totally loop them. They just have to make a read here or there. TLs, they're freaking masters at just making the right guesses and having you almost have to use entity blocker to get people at those loops. And there's little you can do as a lot of these killers. Like if you're Wraith, what you gonna do? Block off one of the windows with bamboozle maybe, because you brought it, but what if you didn't bring bamboozle? What if you're not using Huntress or Demogorgon or someone who can actually punish the survivors for going through the middle? Or, not punish the survivors, but reward you for going through the middle, which is not the preferred way for killers to go through, the TLs and stuff like that. Even then the survivors can react to your attack. They just feint that they're going for the window, dodge. You screw up because the freaking pinpoint accuracy you have to hit the survivors as they're going around the loop. You just fail at that and it's chase reset because you used your power and that resets your bloodlust. Survive with friends. We keep going into the same circular argument of survive with friends shouldn't be punished because they just want to play with their friends and there's not even a tactical advantage or unfair advantage involved with them playing. I have to ask if you've completed grade school, if you really think that, because there's an undeniable difference in gen speed and body blocks and other types of coordination when it comes to survive with friends versus solo. Anyone can see that who's played this game for like 100 hours or more. And this idea that we need to bring solo to survive with friends level, it's gonna freaking kill the game for killers, man. Survive with friends is game breaking in their current state. They should get a debuff or something. We should not be doing the opposite, which is buffing the survivors in freaking solo who can't even play the game to their level, instead of bringing survive with friends down a little bit, not to stupid solo level where it's like, oh, I have the most awful teammates ever and we can't do these gens, so we just lose this one I can call ahead of time. Well, it's like they need something. You should not be able to just play with your freaking friends, get a free unfair advantage against the killer. They should not have to suffer that just because you think, oh, I just want to play with my friends. Because if you're worried about a debuff, man, then you're playing the game competitively and you're playing to win. So that goes beyond just playing with friends, because y'all are aiming to win. The killer, on the other hand, is aiming to win whether it's solo or survive with friends. The problem is, survive with friends is literally like, you can down people super freaking quick, like every 10 or 20 seconds, the exact same as solo queue, but the gens still fly. Because of that coordinated with prove thyself and saves and things like that. Then the perks, that's a huge thing with this game. The meta has shifted, yes, but killers are still seemingly reliant on gen defense, still having to play Nurse and Blight to be competitive, or else just getting bullied, playing freaking Trapper and Hillbilly and Wraith and Freddy and Pig and Ghostface and Sadako and Dredge even. Those killers just get bullied against survivors who know how to play the game. And there's just so many second chances still on the survivor side. We nerfed DS, we surprisingly didn't nerf BT, we actually buffed it to give them 10 more seconds of endurance. That works in endgame, whereas off the record does not. Dead Hard, you can still use Dead Hard against killers. I don't know why people were saying it's a dead perk. They have to swing at you, or else you're gonna get to that jungle gym palette, but if they do, then you can press Dead Hard, get the sprint burst from the endurance hit, and not even have to use that palette. It's exactly as we described it, where it might even be a freaking buff to Dead Hard, because I get a sprint burst instead of just you missing. It's exactly as we called all this stuff. People freaking having off the record I'm swinging into a bunch of the time, even though it's like, when the heck did you get unhooked? Like 60 freaking seconds ago? 70 seconds? And also abusing that to freaking block for their teammates, and then they have DS afterwards. So it's like a way stronger BT body block than before if you're using that perk, with the only downside that you can't use it in endgame. And I don't even think it deactivates in endgame straight up. If you are unhooked with off the record before the last gen gets done, you still have it for 80 seconds. It doesn't just, oh, last gen's done, turn off your off the record. It saves it, it carries over. Which is a shocking truth I learned recently. But this gaslighting of killers saying it's a skill issue, you're just bad at the game, you're never gonna be satisfied till Survivor is freaking unplayable. It's just wrong, and it's criminalizing playing killer. Especially the killers who have to tunnel and stuff, and they realize that just to freaking have a chance at winning and stuff, and you're saying, man, all this guy does is camp and tunnel. That's all he does. Specifically when people critique true talent and stuff like that, that's all they ever freaking say. Like they have no clue of what's going on in front of them. If you actually try to play the game normally as killer, play for chases and stuff like that, you're gonna lose almost every time. And that's why these forum posts, I have at least 2 of them right here, is freaking mind-boggling, like the alternate reality these people live in. Because I'm gonna try to refresh the page because this stupid thing is so long. Guy writes like a freaking essay saying why these are the steps you have to take to win as killer 99% of the time. Like, no, there is always a chance for survivors to win, even when the killer's playing their best. And because he acts like it's broken down to a science. You just tunnel the first person down, and if they unhook, you camp them. And then you tunnel the guy down again, because the little sprint burst you get from the borrow time hit or off the record, it doesn't matter, you just catch up to them and down them again. And then if they have DS and stun you, you just catch up to them and down them again. Like, it's that freaking easy. You just, like, this is the most basic level of thinking possible that these people are going into, and they're garnering so much freaking support with their statements. Like, let's look at this. I haven't lost a single game as killer since this patch came out. Just like that other guy who was saying He hasn't lost a game of Killer in 200 games since the patch came out. It's freaking unbelievable that these people have the audacity to basically lie to your face and say that. This guy has 10 posts, by the way, the one who's saying this. I don't think you understand how truly easy it is for Killer. Finding survivors at the beginning of the game is the most troublesome part of the whole process. Once you just find one survivor, you can catch them. Yep, that's what happens in a match. You just find the survivor and catch them. If you can't find a survivor before they pop one gen, then when the gen pops, you know where they are and can usually find them shortly after. Yeah, but you haven't even found a survivor by the time one gen pops? That's a losing game right there. There's no way you're bringing that back. There is literally nothing, not a single thing that one survivor can do to stop you from downing them very quickly. Finding a god pallet and then successfully breaking line of sight and hiding is the only thing that can end a chase. This is only possible if they're uninjured. Well, why is that? If they successfully accomplish this, you can just move on to find another survivor, because this is also only possible if you haven't gotten a single hit on them or had bloodlust yet, and undoubtedly we're not chasing them very long. What? You can chase a survivor for very long and still not get a hit? This also means only potentially 3 survivors on the gen. Only 3 potential survivors on gens, people. If you're chasing for a second time after an unhooked, DS is not going to stop you from immediately catching back up to them. I'm going to skim through here because this is absolute clownery. Even with 25% volume to grunts, it may as well be 100% loud if you're playing seriously and have headphones on. You will hear them no matter what. Their bloodstains will lead you to them immediately. Perhaps they get really lucky and can run you to 2 different god pallets before you finally catch up. He's even saying finally like he knows what he's saying is bullcrap because it takes forever to catch up to survivors. Either way, they're going down in far less than 90 seconds. With 2 god pallets, who freaking knows how long that chase will last? If they're playing it right. Off the record and BT immediately voided when you hit them as they get unhooked after their pathetic little endurance speed burst. You will catch up to them within 10 seconds. Even with their 1 exhaustion speed boost, you will catch up to them within 10 seconds. What is this? These people just go on freaking rants saying how easy it is with Killer when they're having like the most perfect freaking scenario and not even like using accurate times to describe what the heck is happening during a game. They're just saying like, oh, you can spend all this freaking time and yet it's not that much time because and the gens, they're going in the background, but they're not flying at all under any circumstances because you're just that good as Killer. All of this is possible even without using any gen perks or Killer abilities. This is why we have Killer streamers on 300 plus win streaks. Oh, and I know it's hard to freaking believe this, but yes, I do believe those people have gone against 300 bad teams in a row. Look at the tournament scene. You have the best freaking Nurse and Blight players out there competing in these tournaments with restrictions on what the survivors can bring, and they're only getting like 1 to 2 kills because the gens fly that fast. How do you take that and then say that, oh, because Killers are getting 300 win streaks, it's fine? Those must have been 300 suboptimal teams. Yes, I said it. Because how does that correlate with what's happening in tournament where you get 1 probably half decent team of survivors, probably only good on gens and not even in chase, just beat these Killers over and over and over? Killer streaks are such a huge joke because it's literally you win all these games in a row against bad teams, and then that one good team just takes your streak away. That's absolutely what happens. And people are excusing survivors DCing actually in this current patch. They're like, well, survivors just don't want to play against Forever Legion, and picking Legion as a freaking 100% chance to win or whatever because he's so boring and easy. And the types of freaking posts that say that crap get like dozens of likes. Like the whole freaking community's behind that. And going back to that other thing I said, oh, the gens lasting like a freaking minute longer overall is too much, right? And they're like, oh, we'll tell that after I'm done versing the 5th Legion in a row with 30 to 40 minute games each. How is that happening? How is your team allowing those matches to last that long? Are you having Circle of Healing or something, or not even, and just running away every single time the Legion hits you with their power to heal up to full so that they can do it all over again? I'm assuming that's what's happening in these matches, because otherwise there's no freaking way. And then Broken Soul has to come in saying, well, here's the math on this, and it takes 9.15 minutes minimum in a game if you have all of these things. And every time he does this math, every time, he says Thanatophobia stacks and Pentimento stacks and all this stuff factored in. Yeah, but what if the killer's not running that stuff? What if the survivors have toolboxes and stuff like that, or any perk to speed up the gens? And then he says, and this isn't even including 400% regression from Colubrine and Overcharge. I just showed you, or I just recorded a freaking Wraith match where even if I had those perks equipped, I couldn't have used them because the people just tapped the freaking gens the moment I kicked them and walked away to chase someone else. You can't just get 400% regression. It never reaches to that point because someone always interrupts the gen before then. Even if they like miss the overcharge skill check and get that extra progression loss, they're still back on it unless you come back immediately after that and you're on them and you push them off and you kick the gen again. That's so much time waste from you either way, whether you actually do interrupt that gen or not. But yeah, I really need to stay off the forums because it's like hurting my head trying to listen and argue with these people who have no clue what they're freaking talking about. This whole community is just like gaslighting killers to the freaking max. You don't need to run gen defense, you don't need to camp, tunnel, or slug to win games. It's just freaking a walk in the park for you. Which just says that, oh yeah, all these matches that Daniel Master 87's putting out where he loses, I could have won that match. Just put me at the controller and I could have won it. And I don't even have to use gen defense, I just get easy 4Ks all the time. 100% win rate since this patch dropped, stuff like that. It's like, sure, whatever. Can't argue with that because can't argue with idiots. Because they just deny the reality, deny. Killer survived patch, killer survived sided game, survivors are gonna leave the game in droves. It's okay to DC and rage quit on killers because you think that it's an unwinnable game, which is never the freaking case. For Survivor, there's always a chance to beat the killer. Unless you're just getting matched with garbage solo teammates over and over, which people keep mistaking for balance. Oh, I lose in solo like 100% of the time. Yes, but is that with good teammates and you're playing good yourself, or are you all playing terrible and that's why the killer is winning? And you're not punishing them ever for camping or tunneling or not using gen defense perks and stuff like that. There's so much that you can freaking do, but I'm done with this. This is Daniel Master 87 signing out.